I ran into my new friend Crit because I was checking out this Radical SR3, and this car is just amazing. To me, this would look more like a purpose-built race car, but I don't know, Crit, do you sometimes take this on the road?
I wish I could. Yeah, it's actually in another state. You can actually get them plated. If I have a dealer plate, so I might be able to get away with it if I want to risk it. But it has the spots for lights, so you can put lights in it. It already has the tail lights, backup lights, reverse, everything like that. So it's actually, you can make it street legal really easy in England, where it's from and made. But here in California, unfortunately, with all the smog controls, it's not happening.
Crit, and I think you're a much better driver than me. The only thing I'm thinking though is I look at this appears like it might be a little bit of a problem even if you could drive it on the street. Yeah, am I correct? Or
I might get stuck.
Wow.
The first speed bump, I think.
So that, I don't know, if you're a strategic driver, I guess you can make it. But for all of you out there, this is an amazing vehicle. I just don't know for everyday use. And Crit, I'm going to assume that this is truck and trailer only for you, at least at current time?
For me it is, yeah.
Understood, understood. Well, Crit is a true enthusiast here, and because this is beyond my expertise, he's going to go through this, and let's take a look at it. So, my friend, if you can kind of tell us exactly what was done to this car. I know you already explained to us it was from England, so maybe you could give us some of the specs and what its purpose really is in the racing field.
Of course. So there's a huge Radical racing field. Radical is a company that's based in Peterborough, England, and what they do is they make these cars. There is a tubular space frame car, kind of like an Ariel Atom, and they build them from the ground up, and these are just composite panels that are on the front and the rear. They lift off for clams, and what it has in it, it has a 1500cc Suzuki Hayabusa motorcycle engine. So it's a 1300 that then the company bores out to a 1500, makes around 275 horsepower and weighs 1100 pounds.
Whew.
And they have a whole Radical racing series in England, then was brought over to the United States, where the two main spots where they race are Sonoma. They have Radical racing in Sonoma, and they also have Radical racing at Spring Mountain Resort in Pahrump, Nevada, where they have a huge contingency of Radicals that race there.
Pahrump, Nevada.
Pahrump, right?
I've not heard of that, but I'm thinking, I don't know, that sounds like a great place.
Yeah.
Where exactly is that?
So Pahrump is an hour to the west of Las Vegas. There's like two main things there. You go there to race or you go there to shoot. So front sight is where people go. If you're into that kind of thing and you want to shoot stuff up, you go to front sight and learn how to shoot. Or if you want to race, you go to Spring Mountain, where they have a huge track that they're trying to actually expand and make it bigger than the Nürburgring.
Well, I mean, at least you're close enough you could gamble, race, shoot. I mean, it's kill three birds with one stone type of thing, I'm thinking. Very good, my man. Well, this is incredibly crazy, and since it's purpose-built, I mean, I'm looking at this, I don't know if you'd be willing to disclose, but what do one of these run? New, pre-owned? I mean,
so this is an older model. This is from 2004, but the new ones, if you're like, hey, I want a 2019 Radical, you go to the factory. They start at between 80, 85 and go all the way up to 150. This one right here, I just bought a month ago and I got it for $25,000.
25,000, guys, for, I don't know, less than most Honda models. You could have one of these. Of course, you would need a tow vehicle, a trailer. Yeah. So actually, when all said and done again, you will need quite a bit of this, but I'm sure the fun outweighs all the expense, right?
It's 2.5 Gs lateral that you're pulling, and then 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds.
2.7 seconds.
The sequential shifter, so you just tap on the shifters and it'll shift up and down for you.
Now you bring up a good point. I know when we were talking off camera, you told me that, was this originally a manual that's been converted?
So what it is it's actually, it has the standard Suzuki Hayabusa transmission, then a Quaife differential in the back. I mean, we can take the rear clam off in a couple of seconds if you want to see it.
If you were up to it for, please,
sure,
let's take a look at it.
Okay.
Do you need me to give you a hand, or you got it on your own?
You go on the other side.
Okay, all right. Oh boy, this is a recipe for disaster. Okay.
Ready? So we go up and then
back.
Up over the snout,
okay.
And then we'll go back over this way.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Nice. Oh, I'm like a pro. I'm ready to go racing with Crit right here. Jeez. Yeah, I could crew. What the heck, man?
Okay. So as you can see, it's a 1500cc basic Hayabusa motor that then they put the Quaife differential on right here.
Man,
it
it's
has
a small
reverse
unit.
in it. Normally the motorcycle engines don't have a reverse, so I pull the lever there up in the cockpit and it shoves the gear in, and I can roll in reverse.
Okay. Wow. Nice. Man, what a nice package. It's very clean. You guys can all see that the work done here, of course,
really
is full blown.
There's a dry sump tank right there. It has the hot weather cooling kit, so giant radiator, and then over here is a differential cooler as well as a oil cooler in this side pod over here.
Are these all built custom to order?
Most of them are. This one was built specifically for the previous owner.
Wow, cool, man, amazing. Jeez, and looking inside there, of course, you've got what appears to be some sort of race car dash.
Yeah, so Radical has their dash, and when I got it, I didn't like that it didn't have a tachometer. I'm just used to racing with a tachometer, so I just recently installed the tach there.
It didn't have a tach?
Didn't have a tach. It has the sequential shift lights, but they don't start till 4,000 right here.
Wow.
So,
okay. Well, that is a good addition, I would say,
yeah,
my friend.
Right?
Now, one cool thing is like one of these. I mean, obviously, easy access is amazing, but I mean, made in England. Are there any dealers for these things in the U.S.?
There are. One, Spring Mountain,
okay.
they sell them there, and also Sonoma Raceway. So that's called Radical Northwest.
Okay.
And so they're a dealership, so you can go up to Sonoma Raceway and buy one.
Now, do you take yours in to get it serviced, or do you do your own work?
So I used to own Lazarus Motorcycle Restoration, so I'm fairly familiar. I've been a grease monkey before.
Understood.
But,
experience.
So that's why I got it, because I like to wrench. And so for me, it's a tinkering hobby.
Wow,
and,
very cool.
It's kind of my early midlife crisis car, I guess.
Early midlife crisis. I like that, brother. Wow, very nice. Man, and obviously there are 2 seats. Is this for your supercar model girlfriend, or?
Well, to tell you the truth, I mean, racing, and it's no fun unless you can scare somebody else.
Understood. I don't know anything about that.
Right?
Couldn't tell you. Okay. And typically then, who is usually running with you?
My good friend John Sitt, who I think you know.
Oh,
actually,
okay.
I let him drive it.
Okay.
He managed to spin it on the first couple of turns, but.
Very cool, my man.
But no,
cool.
he's going to teach me how to drive it, I suppose. He's a really good racer.
Very nice, man. Very nice. Well, the one thing that's very cool about Shukai is a wide variety. And again, my friend, how long have you been coming to Shukai? And really, what does the show mean to you?
For me, it's an assemblage of all sorts of different diversity. I mean, California is one of the most diverse diverse states, but San Jose, again, diverse area where you're getting a mixture of Japanese, American, muscle cars, and motorcycles. And I think just bringing a race car to it, that was something that I thought I could add to it, that I thought it'd be fun. But just coming to see all the different people, the different food, that's why I came.
Well, it's very cool, my man. I mean, I'm glad you made it out. I don't know if it's okay. Carrie's giving the okay to some of the others. Is there any chance you can fire this thing up for us?
Yeah, sure. Definitely.
All right, my man. Let's give it a hear. Okay, well guys, Crit has an amazing race car here. This is just some of the wide variety that's really great for all of us to see. I don't know if one of these is in my future, but he has invited me to go and sit shotgun. So right after the show's over, they're gonna clear this main boulevard out. I'm gonna jump in and we're gonna take a run down this street. Right, my man?
You're doing it, man.
You're too kind, my brother. Here's the thing about that. If I was to crash, I would have to pay for it. That's kind of how the rule works.
We'll just trade.
Well, my friend, it was great meeting you, my man. Thank you so much, my man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
All right.
Talk to you soon. It's been quite some time since I've done fab work, especially on the race cars, because on my newer cars, that's what's great about them. They don't need fab work. But since I haven't done any aluminum welding for quite some time, just to jump in and start going again would be a little bit crazy, seeing that I do repairs on the ranch every now and then with aluminum sprinkler pipe, but that's really not of any magnitude as compared to work on the X. So the best thing is I practice. So when I jump into that, one thing comes to mind for all of you that want to do your own builds. Something to keep in mind is that almost every shop I know is always looking for a good fabricator. And as most of you know that are doing your own builds, they kind of tend to work on their own time schedule. The better they are, the longer the line is to get in with them, and you can only get your stuff done as quickly as they can turn it out. So for me, what I learned early in the game was the best thing is that I just do all my own work, and therefore maybe I could pass this on to you. There's nothing super difficult as far as I'm concerned about TIG welding, stick welding, MIG welding. I've done it all, I do it all on the farm, but I only did stick and MIG until I got the race cars. Then I had to teach myself how to TIG. I had some pointers from some friends, but it's not all that difficult. And the one thing I can point out is that they will always try and sell you the best welders. So this is my original square wave TIG 255 Lincoln that my dad got me, and it's probably relatively affordable now. I mean, this was way back, and this is when I started with. And then when we had the race trailer and the rig, I needed a smaller unit, which contained also the cooler. So I bought this Miller unit that costed a small fortune. I think it was actually over 2.5 times the cost of the Lincoln. But when I'm welding every day, I still use the Lincoln. This one just sits here. So if you were able to find one of these that's in good condition, possibly off eBay or a shop that might be closing, the key is practice. And if you practice a lot, the welds turn out pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and practice a little bit here and get ready. One thing I usually do in preparing when I'm trying to weld on something that's nice is I'll weld on something that's not very good, because that makes it harder to weld. And that way, once I have real clean, good material that hasn't been contaminated in any way, then the welds will actually come out better. There's a lot of modifications that are going to have to be done to the front of the X in order to accommodate this larger oil tank that I want to put in. So you can see up in front, the first thing I'm doing is removing all the plumbing for the fuel pressure regulator. Unfortunately, that regulator and the old oil tank, a lot of the framework, there's so many things in the way to accommodate a bigger tank. So that means re-plumbing, and all of you know how much fun that is. And I'll have to modify and make brackets to relocate everything that I can to the passenger side. That's going to give me the most amount of room to accommodate that new tank. If the tolerance weren't so tight, I would do all these modifications off the car. As you can see there, I have to cut off the bracket for the fuel pressure regulator. Everyone has their own choice of what works best. For me, in tight spaces, if I can fit it, I'll use a cutting wheel. But as you can see, I was just checking there to make sure I didn't hit the charge pipe, because there's just not a lot of room. I mean, you know, you can use the pneumatic Sawzall, but it tends to jump a lot. And in those tight spaces, I tend to have more problems with it. So I cut the bracket off, and now I'm facing it off with a die grinder. I'm using a vacuum cleaner, which I highly recommend all of you do if you're going to be grinding in the car. It'll really help from getting debris all over the place, especially all of you know that if you steel, the debris will oftentimes rust if you can't get it completely cleaned out. That's not a major concern for me because I'm using aluminum. But it's just a tight space, so hopefully everything will work out there. Now I'm moving up to the front, and you could see we are reaching the point of no return, because that bracket that is getting cut off is the main bracket for the oil tank and the overflow reservoir. So obviously without those two components, it is literally impossible to run the engine. So hopefully everything will go as planned, because also you can see down below that bracket I'm cutting right now attaches to the fuel return lines, which also would be very difficult with it being gone. But what I intend to do is build new bracket work off of the mounts on the inner core, and the fuel return will have to be completely replumbed because there's a single line that goes back through the chassis to the fuel cell. And as you can see, man, cutting on the car just drives me nuts, because even with the vacuum cleaner running and everything covered in plastic and rags, you still get debris everywhere. But hopefully it'll clean up quickly. I can pull the fuel distribution block and dress everything off. The cutting wheel leaves some pretty sharp edges. I'm going to have to design some sort of bracket work and support frame for the oil tank, as my plan is to sit on top of there, but I'll have to wrap it in rubber tubing. Actually, it's mostly like a shock absorber, because when the tire shake comes, it is quite violent. To accommodate for the new oil tank design, I'm going to go ahead and cut the charge pipe here, then change the orientation of the tile blow-off valve to allow for the larger tank. So what we need to do is pull the blow-off valve off so we can use a vertical bandsaw to make a cut where my original weld was. Now that the charge pipe is cut, I've cleaned and blown it out real good and reinstalled the blow-off valve so we can put it on the car and check the orientation. All right, that's looking good. Change the orientation to the blow-off valve to down, which gives me a lot more space to fab up the new oil tank. Now what I need to do is make clearance because the steering arm comes right here to the rack and the front framework is almost touching, but I want to modify this framework and bend it down so I have more room for the oil tank. For sure when I do that, the problem is going to be I'm going to have no clearance here. So I hate to do fab work on the car, but I'm somewhat limited in what I can do because everything is so tight. To make it fit right, it has to be done on the car. So the steering arm is guarded by this piece of steel and I have a flat plate there to guard from the heat. I'm going to heat the frame there and then try and push it down back where it belongs to open up that clearance. We're looking good here. Plenty of clearance now for the steering shaft. Now to make the bend here, to lower this, to accommodate the tank on this side, the best thing to do would be disconnect the upper part of the steering shaft and try and pull it back to make clearance there and then block it off. We'll give it a shot here and see if she'll come. There we go. Let's take a look in the car. Yeah, the shaft is good. Let's try and get it to go back further. Okay. All right. So we got clearance there. We can slide the pipe and the guard over the shaft coming off of the rack to protect that. Heat this edge here and bring it down. I need to disconnect that coolant line to give us clearance. We're going to try and bend this frame down by heating at this elbow here and this junction here. In order to do that, we need to heat it with a torch. So we're going to need to protect both sides of the steering shaft, the boot, and also the fuel line, and we have a brake line as well. I cut this piece of pipe to use as a guard against the boot. We'll use the half pipe again on the shaft. Once it's in, push it down. And we will use this plate to to guard the fuel line and brake line. I have no idea if this is going to work, but we'll give it a shot and see what happens. As many of you know that do your own fab work and your own builds, things often don't go as planned. And unfortunately for me, that's where we're at here as far as the front framework. Even after heating it and trying to make it bend, I was hoping with heat it would make a radial bend, but unfortunately the frame actually started to buckle, which won't be super clean, and it just does not want to move because of the rigidity. So instead of breaking something, I've reassessed, and what I actually need to do is probably cut a section out, try and drop it, but still heat the bar that's going above the steering rack for clearance. But we're running short of time, so we'll have to just catch that all next time. I hope all of you have a great weekend. See you next time.